Well, my new book, Even Better Than the Real Thing, which is out in January, is about a girl called Eve. She's an artist. She paints genuine fakes for a living, and she specialises in Van Gogh. What happens is she discovers that 10 years before that, her dad has sold one as the real thing and made millions of pounds for it. So she decides that she needs to get it back to save her reputation and to save her family being implicated. And she enlists the help of her neighbour Larry, who just happens to be an ex-con man. And the story goes from there. I got the idea for the book when I began to think, what if your parents weren't who they said they were? I think it would be a shock for anybody. So then I began to think, well, I can't really do two parents, maybe I'll just do one parent. And I also had seen a programme where these parents used to bring their daughter into a shop and they would steal jewellery by using her as a distraction, like maybe she fell in the shop and all the staff would rush over to the daughter, next thing the jewellery would be gone. And I just began to wonder, did that daughter know that she was being implicated in this? So the story just grew from there. I had various titles in mind for this book. There was Faking It, Faking Fabulous. But then when I started to research the book, I read a sentence that said, how do you tell if a painting is even better than the real thing? Sometimes the actual people copying paintings would be actually better than the artist itself. So I decided that that's the best title I could pick, Even Better Than the Real Thing. So that's what I did. Well, the research was very interesting. I learnt an awful lot about con men, and I actually wrote a poem about them. The con men basically work on what they think you want, and they promise to give it to you. And there was a great sentence in something that I read which said that the con man makes you feel that you are helping them, whereas in fact they are basically helping themselves. And they're fascinating people, even if they are criminals. And I found out quite a lot about them, and I discovered that if something is too good to be true, then it definitely is. Con men are fascinating, ingratiating. They can be charming, disarming, but the things they do can be construed as extremely alarming. Catch Me If You Can was about a man called Frank Abigail, who would never fail to pull a con and then be gone. One of his tricks that caused quite a storm was when he printed his account number on bank deposit forms. So when the customer came and filled in the blanks, he had no idea he was depositing with Frank. He was a pilot, a doctor, a lawyer and a teacher. His ability to reinvent himself, his most powerful feature. He now works legally, keeping fraud at bay. Yeah, for Frank Abigail, crime sure did pay. There was also the case of Han van Meegeren, who spent much of his early life beleaguering the art critics who said he was crap. He thought to himself, I'd pay them back. Thus began his life forging fakes. He copied Van Hals, De Hooch, Vermeer and the greats. But alas, after World War II, his scam was exposed, when details of his dealings with the Nazis were disclosed. It seemed that he'd sold a Vermeer to Herr Göring, and for his head, the Dutch people were furiously roaring. Not true, said Van Meegeren. This is the story, that Vermeer is nothing more than my brilliant forgery. And taking out his paints and his brushes, he proceeded to create a fake so luscious that all gasped and applauded, and Van Meegeren was lauded with hip hip hooray. Yeah, crime sure did pay. There was one Vister Lustwick who sold the Eiffel Tower, con scrap merchants of money, the gullible shower. The Mona Lisa, just in case you didn't know, was stolen then forged by a man called Valfernio. While Brooklyn Bridge was sold many times to tourists by one George Parker, who fell foul of the jurists when they gave him life in a New York prison, where he spent his time talking cons to all who would listen. Con men, you see, are expert at the sting, which is why I wrote Even Better Than the Real Thing. It tells the story of Larry and Eve, and of how they have a con to conceive to buy back for millions a fake Van Gogh that years before Eve's dad had the audacity to hawk. Will they manage it? And if so, how? The book will reveal all. It's in the shops now. The tale is romantic, sassy and wily, even better than the real thing, by Martina Reilly.